My name is Myra Townsend, and I'm 28 years old. 3 weeks ago, after my grandmother passed away, my parents took everything she had, every savings account, every property, every retirement fund, and left me a run-down house with a caving roof, black mold in the bedrooms, and plumbing that hadn't worked in years. They laughed about it. My sister filmed me crying and sent it to the family group chat. They thought I'd crumble, sell it back to them for pennies, and disappear. But a week later, the repairman I'd hired called me. His voice was shaking. "Ma'am, we found something in the wall." Then he lowered his voice to a whisper. "The police are here. Come now." When I saw what my grandmother had hidden behind that wall, even I turned pale. Before I go on, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Let me know what time it is where you are right now. Now let me take you back to a Tuesday morning, the day we buried my grandmother. The chapel at Ridgemont Community Church smells like lilies and floor polish. I'm sitting in the front pew, eyes swollen, hands balled in my lap, staring at a mahogany casket I can't afford to look away from. 3 years. That's how long I spent in Grandma Lorraine's house on Maple Lane. 3 years of midnight medication runs, 3 a.m. oatmeal, changing wound dressings while she gripped my wrist and told me stories about my grandfather. I dropped out of nursing school at 25 to take care of her, lost most of my friends, burned through every dollar I earned at the clinic. And my parents? Dad stands by the guest book in his charcoal suit, shaking hands like he's running for mayor. Mom dabs her eyes with a tissue, just enough for the neighbors to notice, never enough to smudge her mascara. My sister Vanessa leans against the doorframe, phone out, posting a selfie with the caption, "R.I.P. Grandma, forever in our hearts." They visited once a month, 20 minutes, sometimes less. I carried a folding chair from home because the hospice only had one beside her bed. That same chair is in the back of my car right now. I sat in it every single night for 1,000 nights, and nobody in this room knows that, except me and God. Mrs. Patterson from the garden club touches my arm. "Your parents are so lucky to have you, sweetheart." I smile. It's the only muscle I can still control. After the service, the parking lot clears slowly. I'm loading the folding chair into my trunk when Dad appears behind me. "I cleaned out her place last night," he says, hands in his pockets. "Lawyer reads the will tomorrow morning. Don't get your hopes up." Her body isn't even cold yet. Attorney Hargrove's office is small and brown. Brown desk, brown walls, brown leather chairs that wheeze when you sit down. Dad's in the center seat. Mom's to his left, clutching her purse like it might fly away. Vanessa's on the end, scrolling her phone. I take the chair closest to the door. Hargrove opens a manila folder and starts reading. His voice is flat, mechanical. Savings accounts totaling $480,000. To Gregory and Diane Townsend. The Oak Street rental property, assessed at $310,000. To Gregory and Diane Townsend. Retirement funds, $410,000. To Gregory and Diane Townsend. I stop breathing. To my granddaughter Myra Townsend, I leave the residential property at 14 Maple Lane, current assessed value $35,000, as is. The room tilts. $35,000. A house with a caving roof, black mold in the bedrooms, and plumbing that hasn't worked right since the Clinton administration. "That can't be right," I whisper. "She told me. She always said I'd be taken care of." Dad cuts in without looking at me. "She said that to everyone. This is black and white, Myra." Vanessa snorts, aims her phone at my face. I hear the shutter sound. My hands are shaking and she's filming it. 10 minutes later, a message pops up in the family group chat. Vanessa sent the video with a caption, "Little sis got the haunted house LOL." I stare at the signature page before Hargrove takes it back. Grandma Lorraine's name is there, but the handwriting, it trembles across the line like a seismograph. That's not how she wrote, not when she was strong, but the folder closes. and nobody asks me if I have questions. 14 Maple Lane greets me with a puddle in the hallway. The roof leaks in 3 places. The kitchen faucet runs rust-colored water for 40 seconds before clearing. Upstairs, the bedroom where Grandma Lorraine slept her last healthy nights is spotted with mold, dark patches climbing the walls like something alive. The toilet doesn't flush. The breaker box sparks when I flip the switch for the porch light. I sleep on a sleeping bag in the living room that first night, listening to the house settle around me like an old dog finding its spot. In the morning, I sit at the kitchen table with my phone calculator. Part-time at the clinic, $1,800 a month. Medical debt from Grandma's care, $18,000. Bills I paid out of my own pocket while my parents never sent a dime. Estimated cost to make this house livable, $25,000 minimum. The math doesn't work. None of it works. But then I find the cookbook. It's on the top shelf above the stove, grease-stained and held together with a rubber band. Grandma Lorraine's handwriting on the inside cover. Recipes for cornbread, peach cobbler, the lemon bars she made every Easter, and tucked between the pages for pot roast and potato soup. A small card in her careful cursive. Maple Lane is yours, my girl. Look closer. I read it twice, 3 times. I assume she means the will. That she wanted me to have the house. I already do, I think. Lucky me. I set the card on the counter and start scrubbing the sink. That afternoon, my neighbor across the street, Mr. Carter, 71, retired postman, knocks on the door holding a casserole dish. Lorraine told me something once, he says. If you ever moved in here, I should tell you to call Frank Beckett. His number's taped behind the kitchen cabinet. 1 week after the reading, Dad calls. I've been thinking about your situation. His voice is the one he uses when he wants something, warm on the surface, calculating underneath. That house is a money pit, Myra. I found a buyer, $40,000, cash. You take that, pay off your medical bills, rent a studio apartment somewhere. Clean start. $40,000. For a property he swore was worthless. Why do you care about a house you said nobody wants? I care about my daughter, he says. I let the silence sit. Then Vanessa calls. No warm-up, no pretense. Sell the house, Myra. Don't be stupid and sit in that dump crying until you need Mom and Dad to bail you out. She pauses, and then, almost carelessly, drops it. Besides, someone's buying up that whole block. Land values are going up. She hangs up before she realizes what she just said. I sit at the kitchen table staring at the phone. If land values are going up on Maple Lane, then why did they give me this house? Why was it written into the will as a $35,000 throwaway? Unless it isn't a throwaway. Unless it never was. That night I can't sleep. I pace the living room, stepping around the puddle from the leak I haven't fixed yet. The casserole dish from Mr. Carter is still on the counter. The cookbook is still open. The card still says what it says. Look closer. And Dad's voice replays in my head. Not the concerned father voice. The other one. The one underneath it. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Myra. Harder for whom? I find the number exactly where Mr. Carter said it would be. A strip of masking tape behind the cabinet above the stove, yellowed with age, the digits written in Grandma Lorraine's steady hand. Frank Beckett picks up on the second ring. When I tell him Lorraine passed, the line goes quiet for a long time. She was the kindest woman I ever worked for, he says finally. Every Christmas she brought pies to my shop, 15 years running. He comes the next morning. He's 65, broad-shouldered, white hair under a faded Ridgemont hardware cap. He walks through the house the way a doctor examines a patient, pressing walls, checking joints, tilting his head at the ceiling. Roof needs replacing, plumbing's shot, kitchen wiring's a hazard. He raps his knuckles against the living room wall. But the bones are solid, surprisingly solid. Lorraine kept this place up better than people think. He quotes me a price that's half what anyone else would charge, and tells me I can pay monthly, no interest. Your grandmother already paid me, he says. 15 years of kindness is worth more than invoices. Upstairs, he measures the bedroom walls. When he reaches the far wall, the one facing the backyard, he taps his knuckles against it and stops, tilts his head, taps again. Huh. What? Nothing, probably. He scribbles a measurement in his notebook. Wall sounds a little different here. Could be an old repair. I'll check it when we start demo. He moves on. I file it away and forget it. Before he leaves, Frank stands on the porch and looks out at the street. She loved this house, you know. Told me once it held everything that mattered to her. I thought she meant memories. I was half right. I tell Dad I'm not selling. He shows up the next evening. No phone call, no warning. Just headlights in the driveway. Then both of them on my porch. Dad in his work jacket. Mom already dabbing her eyes. Mom goes first. Sweetheart, we're worried about you. This house is dangerous. The wiring alone could start a fire. Her voice cracks at all the practice places. Then Dad steps forward, and the mask comes off. Listen carefully, Myra. You held power of attorney over your grandmother for 3 years. If you fight us on this, I will hire a forensic accountant to audit every dollar that moved through her accounts on your watch. And when that audit raises questions, and it will, I'll make sure your little clinic hears about it. The air leaves my lungs. You're saying you'd accuse me of stealing from her? I'm saying the numbers need to add up, and they never do when someone has unsupervised access to an elderly person's finances. He straightens his collar. One phone call, Myra. That's all it takes. Mom sobs louder. Why do you always have to fight the family? I know I'm clean. I paid her bills from my own checking account. I have receipts for every bottle of medication, every doctor's visit, every box of wound dressing. But I also know that an accusation of elder financial abuse, even an unfounded one, would end my career at the clinic before any investigation clears me. He knows that too. They leave. I lock the door and sit on the floor in the dark. The card from the cookbook is on the kitchen counter. I can see it from here. Look closer. What did you want me to find, Grandma? I can't sleep, so I research. Ridgemont's town planning records are public. I pull them up on my phone at 2 in the morning, sitting cross-legged on my sleeping bag. It takes 20 minutes to find what I'm looking for, and when I do, my hands go cold. The town council approved a mixed-use development project for the Maple Lane corridor 18 months ago. 3 new commercial buildings, a parking structure, green space. Property values in the surrounding blocks have increased 15-fold in 2 years. Similar lots 2 streets over sold for $600,000, $700,000. My house, the $35,000 wreck my parents were so generous to leave me, is sitting on land worth more than $500,000. They didn't give me this house because they felt sorry for me. They gave it to me because they planned to buy it back for pocket change once I was too broke and too scared to hold on. I close my phone, open it again, call Frank. I want to fix the house, I tell him. Fix it for real. I'm not selling. When do we start? Tomorrow. That night, before I finally fall asleep, I flip through Grandma Lorraine's cookbook one more time. I almost miss it. A second card, tucked into the very last page, behind the recipe for her brown sugar pie. Her handwriting, smaller this time, more deliberate. The bedroom wall keeps my secrets warm. L. I read it 3 times. Then I hold it against my chest and stare at the ceiling, listening to the house creak around me. And I wonder what a woman with nothing left to lose decided to hide in the walls of the only place she trusted. Tomorrow, Frank starts on the bedroom. Now, I want to pause for a second here. At this point in the story, I still had no idea what was coming. All I knew was this. My parents didn't give me that house out of love. They gave it to me because they thought I'd hand it right back. So let me ask you, if your family was pressuring you to sell something you suspected was worth way more than they were telling you, would you sell or would you hold on? Drop your answer in the comments. I really want to know. Okay, back to the story, because what Frank found in that wall still gives me chills. Frank arrives at 7 sharp with a truck full of tools and a thermos of black coffee. We start with the roof, peeling off rotten shingles, laying new tar paper. By noon, my arms ache and my shirt is soaked through. But there's something almost holy about the work. Every nail driven in feels like a dare. While we take a break on the porch, Frank tells me stories. How Lorraine repainted the entire exterior herself at 70. How she once chased a raccoon out of the attic with a broom and a flashlight. How she'd call Frank every spring to inspect the gutters and always had lemon bars waiting on the counter. She treated this house like family, he says. She treated it better than family treated her, I say before I can stop myself. Frank looks at me but doesn't push. After lunch, we move upstairs. The bedroom needs the most work. Mold remediation, new drywall, fresh insulation. Frank pulls his tape measure along the far wall, the one facing the backyard. He taps his knuckles against it again, the way he did on his first visit. This time, he taps in 3 different spots. Hollow, hollow, solid, hollow. He frowns, measures the wall's depth with a laser tool, then measures the hallway on the other side. 8 inches, he mutters. What? This wall is 8 inches thicker than it should be. Standard interior wall is 4.5. He presses his palm flat against the surface. Somebody added a false layer, and they did it well. The seams are almost invisible. He turns to me. His face is different now. Careful. Myra, there's something behind this wall. The card flashes through my mind. The bedroom wall keeps my secrets warm. Frank works slowly. Pry bar first, easing the outer layer of drywall away from the studs. Behind it, a second layer. Plywood, nailed tight, sealed with caulk along every edge. This wasn't a patch job or a lazy repair. Somebody built this on purpose. He removes the plywood panel. Behind it, a cavity between the walls, roughly 2 feet by 3 feet, lined with plastic sheeting. And sitting in the center, wrapped in a heavy-duty garbage bag, sealed with packing tape, a fireproof document box. Gray metal, the kind you buy at an office supply store to protect insurance papers and birth certificates. That's not insulation, Frank says quietly. I climb up beside him. My fingers are trembling as I peel away the tape and unzip the bag. The box is heavy. I set it on the floor and pop the latch. Inside, a document, 8 pages, stapled in the corner. A notary seal on the last page, embossed and dated. A signature I recognize instantly. Grandma Lorraine's real handwriting, clear and steady. Nothing like the shaking scrawl in the will Hargrove read to us. Beneath the document, a hardcover notebook, navy blue, filled cover to cover with her handwriting, dates in the margins, names, dollar amounts, and at the bottom of the box, a sealed envelope. On the front, in her careful cursive, for Myra. When you're ready. Frank picks up the first page of the document, reads it. His face drains. Myra. His voice sounds wrong. This is a will, a different will. It leaves everything. The savings, the rental, the retirement accounts, all of it, to you. I stare at the page. The will they read to your family, Frank says, is a fake. The room tilts. I grab the door frame to stay upright. We sit on the bedroom floor, the notebook between us. Frank reads over my shoulder. Neither of us speaks for a long time. The first entry is dated 4 years ago, January 15th. Diane came today. She brought papers. She said they're for the bank, for my medication account. I told her I can't see the small print anymore. She said, just sign, Mom. It's for your pills. She guided my hand. I signed. I don't know what I signed. March. Greg came alone. He told me Myra is spending my money. He said she bought new clothes with my debit card. That isn't true. Myra bought my blood pressure medication with her own paycheck. I saw the receipt. June. They withdrew $12,000 from my savings. Diane said it was for property tax on the Oak Street house. The property tax is $3,000 a year. Where did the other $9,000 go? The entries continue. Month after month, year after year, amounts withdrawn, papers presented, lies told. Lorraine's handwriting stays steady even as her body weakened, each entry precise, each date circled. Near the end of the notebook, 3 months before she died. Ruth helped me today. She drove me to her house and we sat at her dining table. Mitch Thompson from the church witnessed. Betty Cole notarized. I signed my real will, the one I actually wrote. Ruth is keeping a copy. I'm hiding the original, where only Myra will think to look. The final entry. Her handwriting wavers for the first time. They changed my will while I lay in bed. They think I don't know, but God knows. And Myra will know. Below it, in smaller letters, call Ruth Calloway if you need proof. She was there. A phone number. Frank closes the notebook gently. Myra, this isn't just a family problem. This is a crime. Frank makes the call before I can argue. What's in that notebook, he says, setting his phone on the windowsill, is elder financial abuse. Forged signatures, coerced documents. In this state, that's a felony. I'm not going to sit here pretending it's a family disagreement. 2 officers arrive within the hour. A young woman named Officer Reyes and her partner, a quiet man with a clipboard. They photograph the wall cavity, the box, the notebook. They read selected entries while I sit on the top step of the staircase, holding the sealed envelope I haven't opened yet. Officer Reyes calls Adult Protective Services from my kitchen. I hear fragments. Notarized documents, conflicting wills, potential guided hand forgery. When she comes back upstairs, her tone has shifted. Professional, but softer. Ma'am, these documents suggest serious crimes against a vulnerable adult. A PS will open an investigation. The district attorney's office will be notified. She hands me a card. In the meantime, you need a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. Legal Aid of Ridgemont County. Call them tomorrow morning. Ask for the Elder Law Division. She pauses at the door. Keep the originals somewhere safe. A bank safe deposit box, ideally. They take photocopies. They photograph every page of the notebook. They photograph the false wall, the box, the plastic sheeting. They photograph Grandma Lorraine's handwriting. After they leave, the house is very quiet. Frank stands in the hallway with his cap in his hands. What are you going to do? I look at the notebook on the bedroom floor. At the envelope I still haven't opened. At the wall where my grandmother hid the truth because she couldn't trust anyone in her own family to hear it, except me. I'm going to call Ruth. Ruth Calloway answers on the first ring, as if she's been waiting. When I tell her who I am, she starts crying. Not the way my mother cries, calculated, theatrical. Ruth cries the way you cry when something you've been carrying for months finally breaks loose. I didn't know she'd passed, Ruth says. Your father told me 6 months ago that Lorraine didn't want visitors. He said she was confused, didn't recognize people. That wasn't true, was it? No, ma'am. She recognized me until the very end. I knew it. Her voice steadies. I have the copy, Myra. The real will. Lorraine came to my house 3 months before she died. Took a taxi by herself. Wouldn't let anyone drive her. She was sharp, clear-eyed. She knew exactly what she was signing. Ruth tells me everything. The 2 witnesses, herself and Pastor Mitch Thompson from Ridgemont Community Church. The notary, Betty Cole, who works at the bank on 5th Street. Lorraine insisted on 3 things: 2 witnesses, a licensed notary, and a second copy stored outside the house. She told me, if Myra finds the original, it means she's strong enough to fight. If she doesn't, then at least God knows the truth. Ruth pauses. There's something else. Your father came to my house 2 months ago. Friendly visit, he said. Brought muffins. But he kept asking questions. Did Lorraine ever mention any documents? Did she ever talk about changing her will? I played dumb. Told him Lorraine and I only talked about scripture and soap operas. She takes a breath. He was fishing, Myra. He was afraid she'd told someone. She did, I say. She told you. And she told me. She just used different words. Ruth agrees to testify. whenever, wherever. Attorney Denise Harlow has an office the size of a walk-in closet and a handshake that could crack walnuts. She's maybe 50, silver-streaked hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. She works elder law pro bono through legal aid, and she's seen cases like mine before. She reads the notebook in 30 minutes, the real will in 5. She sets both documents on her desk and removes her glasses. The will your father presented was signed under duress or forged outright. The signatures show inconsistencies consistent with guided hand manipulation, someone physically moving the signer's hand. She taps the notarized will from the wall. This one has proper witnesses, a licensed notary, and a testator who was demonstrably competent. It supersedes the other. What happens now? 3 things. First, I file a petition to invalidate the fraudulent will. Second, I coordinate with APS and the DA's office. What's in that notebook constitutes elder financial abuse and forgery, both felonies. Third, I request an emergency order to freeze all assets from the estate. That stops your parents from spending whatever they haven't already spent. How long does this take? The freeze? Days? The rest? Weeks? Maybe months. She looks at me over her glasses. But the first move is the freeze. Once that happens, your father will know someone pulled the pin. I nod. One more thing, Denise says. Your parents are hosting a memorial brunch for your grandmother next Saturday, at the church. The whole town's invited? That's right. She holds my gaze. I'm not going to tell you what to do at that brunch, but I will tell you this. Truth is not defamation. I leave her office with a manila folder and something I haven't felt in weeks. A plan. It's Wednesday night. I'm eating cereal over the kitchen sink when my phone buzzes. A friend from the clinic sent me a screenshot. Vanessa's Facebook Marketplace listing. 3 items. Grandma Lorraine's wedding ring. The thin gold band she wore for 55 years. The one Grandpa slipped on her finger at Ridgemont Baptist in 1967. Listed at $200 OBO. Lorraine's family photo album. 60 years of Christmases, birthdays, the picture of me sitting in her lap at age 5. $15. Her hand-embroidered handkerchiefs, the ones she made during chemo, one for each grandchild, each stitched with our initials, $5 each. The caption reads, "Estate clean-out. Everything must go." I call Vanessa. She picks up chewing something. That's her wedding ring, I say. She wore it every day of her life. It's a ring, Myra. It's not Grandma. I want to buy it back. $500. You listed it for $200. Family discount. $500 is nearly a third of my monthly paycheck. I transfer it the next morning. When the ring arrives in a padded envelope, no note, no wrapping, just the band rattling loose in the package, I sit at the kitchen table and hold it in my palm for a long time. It's warm within seconds, like it was waiting. They took her money, they took her house, they took her dignity while she lay in bed unable to stop them. And now they're selling her wedding ring for the price of a dinner. Something shifts in my chest. Not rage, something colder, quieter. A door closing. I put the ring on my finger. It fits perfectly, like she measured it for me. I'm not just going to file paperwork anymore. I'm going to make sure this town hears the truth. Saturday's brunch is all over the Ridgemont Community Facebook page. Dad posted the event himself, a celebration of life for Lorraine Townsend. All are welcome, catered, flowers by Philip's florist, slideshow of memories. I read it twice. A celebration of life, organized by the people who drained hers. Mom calls Thursday evening. Her voice is warm and careful, the way it gets when she's managing something. Wear something nice, okay? And please be on time. The caterer's setting up at 10. A pause. And Myra, don't say anything strange. People don't need to hear family business. It's Grandma's memorial, Mom. Exactly. It's about her, not about you. Dad gets on the line. This is a day to honor your grandmother. You show up, you smile, you sit down. We handle the talking. His voice drops half a register. Don't embarrass this family. I'll be there, I say. After I hang up, I call Denise. The freeze went through this morning, she says. Your father's going to find out soon. The bank is required to notify account holders. By Saturday, he'll know. If I speak at the brunch, legally, sharing truthful statements in a public setting is not defamation. You're not accusing anyone of a crime. You're reading your grandmother's own words. She pauses. But I can't advise you to do it, Myra. I can only tell you the law. I call Ruth next. Saturday, I say. The memorial brunch. Will you be there? Honey, I'll be in the second row. I call Frank. I'll be by the door, he says. I lay out my clothes for Saturday. A black dress, simple. Lorraine's ring on my right hand. The notebook in my bag. 3 more days. Friday morning, the APS investigator, a woman named Sandra Park with a legal pad and unreadable eyes, meets me at the house. She spends 2 hours with the notebook, cross-referencing dates against bank statements Denise subpoenaed. The signature on the contested will shows characteristics of guided hand execution, Sandra says, meaning someone physically controlled the pen, combined with the notebook entries describing coercion and your grandmother's documented cognitive state. She was lucid, per her medical records. This forms a strong pattern. She photographs everything. Again. At 4 that afternoon, the bomb drops. Dad calls. Not my phone. He calls the house landline. I didn't even know it still worked. What did you do? His voice is tight, controlled fury, the kind that comes from a man who's held power his whole life and just felt it slip. The bank froze the accounts, all of them. They said there's a court order. What the hell did you do, Myra? I don't answer. You're going to regret this. You hear me? You are going to regret this. He hangs up. 20 minutes later, Vanessa posts an Instagram story. A black background, white text. Some people can't even let a family grieve in peace. You know who you are. 42 likes in the first hour. I sit on the porch as the sun sets. Mr. Carter waves from across the street. Frank texts me. See you tomorrow. You've got this. Ruth texts. Lorraine is with you, sweetheart. Second row. I'll be there. The memorial brunch is in 16 hours. Dad knows something is wrong, but not how wrong. Mom doesn't know yet. Vanessa is performing grief on social media, and I'm sitting on my grandmother's porch, wearing her ring, holding her words. Tomorrow. The house is quiet at midnight. I sit in the upstairs bedroom, the room where the wall was opened, where the box was hidden, where Lorraine tucked the truth into the bones of her home because she couldn't trust the people who shared her blood. Frank patched the wall already, but I can still see the outline, the place where the plywood panel was, the place she chose. I open the envelope. 2 pages, handwritten. Her best stationery. The cream-colored paper with the pressed wildflower border she kept in her dresser. Dear Myra, if you're reading this, it means you found what I left. It means you stayed in this house long enough to listen to it. I want you to know that I knew. I knew what they were doing. Your father, your mother, your sister. I knew about the papers Diane made me sign. I knew about the money Greg took. I knew they changed my will while I lay in this bed. I didn't tell you because I was afraid. If they found out I knew, they would have sent you away. And you were the only good thing left in my days. I forgive them. Not for their sake, for mine. Carrying anger at 82 is too heavy. But forgiving them doesn't mean letting them take what's yours. You were the only one who stayed. Not for the money, not for the house. You stayed because you loved me. That's why everything is yours. Be brave, my girl. The truth has a witness. Grandma L. At the bottom of the envelope, a Polaroid. Lorraine standing in Ruth's living room, holding the navy notebook, smiling. Ruth beside her. On the back, in Lorraine's handwriting, the truth has a witness. I put the ring on. It fits perfectly. It always has. I set my alarm for 6. Ridgemont Community Church Fellowship Hall, 10:15 in the morning. The tables are covered in white linen. Flower arrangements from Philip's florist line the windowsills. Lilies and baby's breath, the same ones from the funeral. A projector hums against the far wall, cycling through a slideshow of photographs. I count roughly 90 people. Neighbors, church friends, women from Lorraine's book club, a few faces from the clinic. Pastor Thompson sits in the front row, hands folded. Mr. Carter is 3 rows back, arms crossed. And there, second row, left side, Ruth Calloway. She catches my eye and gives the smallest nod. Her purse sits heavy in her lap. She brought the copy. Frank stands by the exit door, cap in hand. Dad is at the microphone. Charcoal suit, polished shoes, a voice like warm honey poured over gravel. Mom gave everything for this family. She was the heart of this home, the foundation of our lives. Mom sits beside the podium, tissue pressed to her nose. Vanessa runs the slideshow from a laptop. I watch the photos scroll. Lorraine at Christmas. Lorraine at Vanessa's graduation. Lorraine holding Dad's arm at the church picnic. Greg and Diane flanking her at Thanksgiving, all smiles. Not a single photo of me. 3 years beside her bed. 1,000 sleepless nights. And I've been cropped out of the slideshow as cleanly as I was cropped out of the will. Mr. Carter leans toward the woman beside him and whispers something. She glances at the screen, glances at me, frowns. Dad's voice swells. And I want to thank this entire family for standing by Mom through everything. He opens the floor. If anyone would like to share a memory of Mom, please come up. I stand. Every chair in the room creaks as heads turn. Dad's jaw tightens. Mom's tissue stops mid-dab. Vanessa's hand freezes on the laptop trackpad. I walk to the front. My black dress. Lorraine's ring. The notebook in my hand, held close to my ribs like a hymnal. I face the room. 90 faces. Some kind, some curious, some already uncomfortable. Thank you all for being here, I say. My voice is steady, but my pulse isn't. Grandma Lorraine would have loved seeing this many people she cared about in one room. I tell them about the 3 years, briefly, the overnight shifts, the medication schedules, the morning oatmeal she insisted on at exactly 6:30, the folding chair I carried from room to room so I could sit beside her wherever she was. A few women in the 3rd row press their hands to their mouths. But there's something about Grandma that most of you probably don't know. I lift the notebook just enough for the room to see it. She was a writer, not books or articles. She wrote in this notebook every single day for 4 years, and she asked me to share her words with the people she trusted. The room is silent. Dad stands. Myra, sit down. This isn't the time. I look at him, directly, calmly, the way Lorraine looked at me when she wanted me to understand something important. You told me this was Grandma's day, Dad. I hold his gaze. So let Grandma speak. He doesn't move. Mom grabs his arm. The silence stretches like a wire. I open the notebook. My hands are shaking, but my voice is Lorraine's now. Steady, clear, patient. And I begin to read. I know a lot of you are probably thinking I was out of my mind for standing up in front of all those people. And honestly, my hands were trembling so hard I could barely hold the notebook. But when you're holding proof that the person you loved most was taken advantage of by the people who were supposed to protect her, you can't sit still. So tell me, would you have read that notebook out loud, or would you have kept it for the lawyers to handle? I really want to know. Drop your answer in the comments. Okay. And what happened next? Nobody in that room will ever forget it. I read 3 passages, just 3. Lorraine's handwriting, Lorraine's voice, Lorraine's truth. January 15th. Diane came today. She brought papers. She says they're for the bank. I can barely see the words. She guided my hand. A murmur moves through the room like wind through a field. March 9th. Greg told me Myra is stealing my money. It's not true. Myra buys my medicine with her own paycheck. I saw the receipt. Dad's face goes white. Mom's tissue is frozen against her cheek. November 3rd. They changed my will. I know because Ruth told me the lawyer called about updated instructions. I never gave any updated instructions. Silence. Total, airless silence. Then the whispers begin. First one row, then two, then the whole room buzzing like a hive someone kicked. Mom stands. Her voice cracks high and desperate. She was confused. She had dementia. She didn't know what she was writing. And then Ruth Calloway rises from the second row, 72 years old, 5'3", wearing her Sunday pearls. Her voice doesn't waver. No, she did not. I saw Lorraine 3 months before she passed. She was sharp as a tack. I drove her to my house. She sat at my dining table and signed her real will, the one she actually wrote. I was a witness. Ruth looks directly at my father. Pastor Thompson was the other witness. He's sitting right there. Every head turns to the front row. Pastor Thompson stands slowly. His face is grave. Ruth is telling the truth. Lorraine asked me personally. She was fully competent. Dad lunges for the microphone. This is ridiculous. Sit down, both of you. But nobody sits. And nobody is looking at my father the way they were 10 minutes ago. Something breaks behind my father's eyes. He steps toward me, hand out, reaching for the notebook. Give me that. You have no right to turn your grandmother's memorial into a circus. I pull the notebook to my chest. This isn't a circus, Dad. This is Grandma telling her own story, in her own words. His neck flushes red. His voice rises for the first time in front of these people, the people he's smiled at in grocery store aisles for 30 years. Who do you think you are? Mom is crying now. Not the performance kind, the real kind, mascara streaking, shoulders caving. But this time, nobody crosses the aisle to comfort her. Nobody hands her a tissue. The women who used to flock to Diane Townsend at every church event sit perfectly still. Mr. Carter stands. His voice is flat and steady, the voice of a man who delivered mail to this street for 4 decades. Diane, I've lived across from Lorraine's house for 20 years. Myra's car was in that driveway every single day, every single night. Your car? Once a month, maybe. 20 minutes. A woman I don't recognize, gray hair, floral blouse, speaks from the back. Honey, the only ones playing a role here are you 3. Vanessa shoves her chair back. You're all taking her side because she played the victim. Nobody answers. Nobody needs to. Dad grabs the microphone stand and pushes it. It hits the table with a sharp metallic crack that echoes through the hall. Mom seizes his arm. They walk toward the exit, Diane pulling, Greg rigid, Vanessa scrambling behind them with the laptop under her arm. The door closes. The room exhales. I'm still standing at the front holding the notebook. Lorraine's ring catches the overhead light. I didn't raise my voice once. Through the fellowship hall windows, I watch my family cross the parking lot. Dad 2 steps ahead, Mom half jogging to keep up, Vanessa trailing with her arms wrapped around herself. They stop. 2 police cruisers are parked beside Dad's SUV, not blocking it, just present. A woman in a gray blazer leans against the hood of the first car, Sandra Park from APS. Beside her stands a plainclothes detective with a badge clipped to his belt. Dad sees them and freezes mid-stride. The detective steps forward. Mr. Townsend, Mrs. Townsend, I'm Detective Morris, Ridgemont County. We need to ask you some questions regarding a complaint filed by Adult Protective Services concerning the estate of Lorraine Townsend. Dad straightens. Muscle memory. The executive posture. The authoritative voice. This is a misunderstanding. My daughter is emotional. She's been under a lot of stress. Sir, this isn't about your daughter. Detective Morris doesn't blink. This is about your mother's bank records and a notarized will that contradicts the one filed with the county. Mom's knees buckle slightly. Vanessa steps back, physically separating herself from her parents. 1 step, then 2. Through the glass, 90 people watch. Nobody pretends not to look. Detective Morris turns to Vanessa. Ms. Townsend Craig, I'd like to speak with you separately. Were you aware of any changes made to your grandmother's will? Vanessa opens her mouth, closes it. Her eyes dart to Dad, then away. For the first time since I've known her, My sister looks small. Inside the hall, Ruth places her hand on my shoulder. I haven't moved from the front of the room. The notebook is still in my hands. "She'd be so proud of you," Ruth whispers. I nod. I can't speak yet, but I can stand. I don't hear the conversation outside. I don't need to. Ruth tells me later what Mr. Carter told her. He was close enough to the parking lot to catch most of it through an open window. Detective Morris separates Vanessa from my parents. Standard procedure. They talk beside the second cruiser while Dad and Mom wait near the first, Dad pacing, Mom leaning on the SUV with both hands. Morris explains the charges being investigated: elder financial abuse, forgery, coercion of a vulnerable adult, each one a felony, each one carrying up to 5 years. Vanessa does the math in 3 seconds. "It was Dad's idea," she says. "Mom helped. She was the one who brought the papers to Grandma's bed. I went along with it." Mr. Carter said Dad heard it, even from 20 feet away. He turned and stared at Vanessa like he'd never seen her before. "What did you just say?" Mom grabbed Vanessa's arm. "Baby, don't." Vanessa pulled free. "No, Mom. I'm not going to prison for your mortgage." She told them everything. How Dad learned from a friend on the town planning council that the Maple Lane corridor was slated for development. How he'd known the land value was skyrocketing while he told me the house was worthless. How the whole inheritance split was designed so that I'd be too broke and too scared to hold on to the one asset that was actually worth something. Dad stood in the middle of the parking lot, alone, Mom beside the car, Vanessa next to the detective. 3 separate islands. The family he'd controlled for 30 years, fractured in a church parking lot while the entire town watched through stained glass. Nobody came out to shake his hand this time. Inside, the fellowship hall has the particular stillness that follows something irreversible. Pastor Thompson walks to the microphone. He doesn't touch it for a moment, just stands there, hands clasped, looking at the empty seats where my father and mother and sister sat 20 minutes ago. "Lorraine Townsend was a woman of truth," he says, "and today, her truth was heard." He doesn't say more. He doesn't need to. People come to me one by one, not rushing, not dramatic, the way you approach someone after a storm, carefully, with open hands. Mr. Carter is first. He grips my arm with both hands. "Whatever you need, sweetheart. Anytime. You knock on my door." Mrs. Phillips, who owns the florist shop and made the arrangements for today. "Your grandmother would be so proud of you, Myra. So proud." A nurse from the clinic, Deborah, who trained me, wraps me in a hug so tight I can't breathe. "Come back when you're ready. Your desk isn't going anywhere." Frank appears at my side, cap in his hands. "The house is going to be beautiful when it's done," he says. She knew it would be. And then Ruth. Ruth, who held the secret, who played dumb when my father brought muffins to her house, who kept a copy of The Truth in her dresser drawer for months, waiting. She takes my hands. "She chose you, honey. Not because you're perfect, because you're real." I look down at Lorraine's ring on my finger, at the notebook still tucked under my arm, at this room full of people who knew my grandmother, really knew her, and who just watched the curtain fall on 30 years of pretending. I didn't win anything today. I just made sure Grandma was heard. 3 weeks pass. The legal machinery moves the way Denise promised, slowly, but with weight. The county court accepts Denise's petition. A probate judge reviews both wills, the notebook, the witness testimonies from Ruth and Pastor Thompson, and the APS investigator's report. The ruling takes 11 minutes. The will presented by Attorney Hargrove is declared invalid. Signatures obtained under duress. Fraudulent testamentary intent. Lorraine's real will, the one she hid in the wall of 14 Maple Lane, is upheld as the binding document. Under its terms, I inherit the house, the savings accounts, the retirement funds, and the Oak Street rental property. Total estate value, approximately $1.2 million. Greg and Diane are each allotted $50,000. Vanessa receives $25,000. But there's a problem. The savings, $480,000 is gone, withdrawn, spent. My parents burned through it in less than 2 months, paying down their mortgage, settling Vanessa's divorce attorney, buying a new car they didn't need. The judge orders full restitution. Greg and Diane must repay every dollar improperly withdrawn from Lorraine's accounts. To cover it, they'll have to sell their own house. The district attorney's office formally opens a criminal investigation. Elder financial abuse, forgery, coercion of a vulnerable adult. 2 felony counts each for Greg and Diane Townsend. Vanessa cooperates with the DA in exchange for reduced charges. A misdemeanor, probation. She keeps custody of her daughter, but barely. Denise calls me the evening the ruling comes through. The court doesn't care about family feelings, she says. It cares about what's legal. And what your parents did was not legal. I sit on the porch of 14 Maple Lane, phone in one hand, Lorraine's ring warm on the other. The math works now. Dad calls from a number I don't recognize. Blocked caller ID. I pick up because I think it's the courthouse. His voice is different. The authority is gone, replaced by something I've never heard from him before, something thin and breathless, like a man standing at the edge of a drop. Myra, please, I'm losing the house. The lawyer's fees alone. Your mother can't sleep. Can't you just drop this? I'll pay you back, I swear, over time. I close my eyes. We made a mistake. I know that. But we're your parents. I let the silence hold for 3 full breaths. Then I say what I've been carrying since the day he cleaned out Grandma's house before her body was cold. Dad, I loved you. I loved Mom. I dropped out of school, gave up 3 years of my life, and went $18,000 into debt taking care of the person you both abandoned. And when she died, you didn't just take her money. You tried to take mine. My voice doesn't shake. I can't drop this, because Grandma asked me not to. I hang up. I block the number. Mom texts from Vanessa's phone an hour later. Sweetheart, we don't have to be enemies. Family shouldn't end this way. I don't respond. 2 days later, a box arrives by mail. No return address, but I know Mom's handwriting on the label. Inside, a handful of old photographs. Me at 5 years old, sitting in Grandma Lorraine's lap on this very porch. On the back, Lorraine's writing, My little Myra. Mom wants this photo to be a weapon, a guilt trip, a rope to pull me back. I keep the photo. I frame it. And I keep the boundary exactly where it is. Setting a boundary doesn't feel like winning. It feels like surgery. Necessary. Painful. But you heal. In a small town, news doesn't travel. It seeps. And by the end of that month, every house in Ridgemont has heard some version of what happened in the fellowship hall. The church quietly removes Dad's name from the building committee. Diane stops going to the grocery store on Main Street and drives 20 minutes to the next town. Vanessa deactivates her Instagram. Nobody talks about it directly, not to their faces, but the invitations stop, the calls stop. The Townsend family, once a fixture of every community event, becomes a gap in the seating chart. Meanwhile, something else happens. Something I didn't expect and didn't ask for. Frank finishes the house. No charge for the final phase. Electrical, paint, the kitchen cabinets. Lorraine already paid me, he says when I try to argue. 15 years of pie is a hell of an invoice. Mrs. Phillips brings potted geraniums for the porch, Lorraine's favorite. Mr. Carter helps me repaint the picket fence one Saturday morning, telling me stories about Lorraine chasing squirrels out of her tomato garden. I enroll back in nursing school. The debt is gone, paid off in full from the estate. Tuition covered. The clinic saves my position. And every Sunday afternoon, Ruth Calloway walks the 6 blocks from her house to mine. We sit at the kitchen table, Lorraine's kitchen table, and drink Earl Grey from Lorraine's blue mugs while the light moves across the room. One afternoon, Mr. Carter stops by during our tea. He pauses at the door, hat in hand. Lorraine came to me a year before she passed, he says. Told me, if anything happens, look after Myra for me. I promised, and I kept my word. She built a safety net I never knew existed, stitch by stitch, neighbor by neighbor. 3 months after the memorial brunch, 14 Maple Lane doesn't look like the same house. New roof, slate gray, fresh white paint, hardwood floors sanded and sealed. They turned out to be original oak under the carpet, gorgeous once the grime was gone. The kitchen has new counters and a working stove. The bathroom has hot water and a toilet that flushes on the first try. The porch has 2 rocking chairs, a hanging fern, and a doormat that says, "Welcome." The one Lorraine had in her closet, still in the plastic wrap, like she was saving it. Frank found the rosebush she planted 20 years ago, buried under a hedge that had overgrown it. He cut it back, gave it room. By August, it bloomed, pink and heavy, the way she described it in her notebook. I sit on the porch in the evening, studying anatomy for my nursing exams. Lorraine's ring on my right hand, the Polaroid of her and Ruth, framed on the mantel inside, the navy notebook in the bedside drawer, not hidden anymore, just resting. The estate settled. After legal fees, repayment complications, and what was already spent, I netted just under $900,000. Enough to be free. Enough to never depend on anyone who would use that dependence against me. I didn't sell the land. I live here. Dad and Diane are awaiting trial. They put their house on the market to cover restitution and attorney fees. Vanessa completed her probation. She hasn't called. I haven't called either. Some nights I walk through the upstairs hallway and stop at the bedroom wall. Frank installed a small oak plaque where the false panel used to be. It reads, "Lorraine's Wall." I don't live in Grandma's old house anymore. I live in mine. Sunday morning. October light fills the upstairs bedroom, warm and amber, the way it only hits this room between 9 and 10. I stand in front of Lorraine's wall. The plaque catches the sun. Below it, the paint is smooth and new, but if you press your palm flat, you can feel the faintest ridge, the outline of where the secret lived. I take out the letter one more time, the cream-colored paper, the pressed wildflower border. I know every word by now, but I read the last line anyway. You were the only one who stayed. Not for the money, not for the house. You stayed because you loved me. That's why everything is yours. Outside the window, Mr. Carter is walking his dog. He waves. I wave back. Down the street, Ruth turns the corner with a bakery bag in her hand. She brings scones now, every Sunday. Our new tradition. She'll sit in Lorraine's chair at the kitchen table, and I'll make the tea, and we'll talk about nothing and everything the way family is supposed to. People ask me if I hate my parents. I don't. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend elsewhere. I just don't need them to define who I am anymore. Grandma taught me that, the hard way. I put the letter back in the envelope. I touch the ring on my finger, warm, always warm, and head downstairs to open the door. The house on Maple Lane was supposed to be my punishment. Grandma turned it into my beginning. And if someone ever tries to erase you, if they smile while they take what's yours and dare you to fight back, don't scream, don't beg, just keep writing. The truth always finds a wall to hide in, and someone brave enough to open it. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. I didn't share it to teach anyone a lesson. I shared it because I believe if you're being treated unfairly by the people who are supposed to love you, you have every right to set a boundary. You are not selfish for protecting yourself. If this story meant something to you, please hit that like button and subscribe. I've got more stories like this one coming. And if you want to keep watching, I left the next video linked in the description below. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.